Welcome to the Story World. By subscribing the channel, you can know effective facts about life and turn on the notification bell for our next video. Let's start the video. In a small mountain town lived Arjun, a young man with big dreams but a habit of procrastinating. Convinced he had all the time in the world, he ignored his father's advice about the importance of making every moment count. One evening, a family friend shared a story about a young man who had learned the hard way that time, once lost, can never be regained. This simple tale changed Arjun's life forever, teaching him that time is the most valuable resource we have and to live with purpose before it's too late. Once upon a time, in a small town nestled by the mountains, lived a young man named Arjun. Arjun was bright, curious, and ambitious. But he had a habit that many of his friends and family criticized. He constantly procrastinated. He often found himself daydreaming, believing he had plenty of time to pursue his dreams and goals, and he never seemed in a hurry. When people reminded him about the importance of managing time, he would smile and say, "I have all the time in the world." Arjun's family ran a small shop in the town, and his father worked tirelessly to make ends meet. His father, Mr. Rao, was a man of discipline and understood the value of time deeply. He would often wake up before sunrise and work until late evening. Seeing his son lounging around, Mr. Rao grew concerned. He often told Arjun, "Son, time is precious. Don't take it for granted. Life will pass by before you know it, and once a moment is gone, you can't get it back." But Arjun would brush it off, convinced he could do things whenever he wanted. One day, an old friend of Arjun's father visited their home. The friend, Mr. Desai, was a successful businessman who had traveled extensively and learned many life lessons. Over dinner, he asked Arjun, "What do you plan to do with your life?" Arjun replied, "I want to start a business one day, but there's no rush. I have time to figure things out." Mr. Desai smiled and said, "Do you really think so? Let me share a story with you. It's a story of a young man, much like you, who thought he had all the time in the world." Arjun was intrigued and leaned in as Mr. Desai began his story. The story of the young man and the wise old hermit. Once, in a faraway village, there was a young man named Karan, who was intelligent and talented but didn't appreciate the value of time. He would spend his days idling, believing that he had plenty of time to achieve his dreams. People around him, including his parents, advised him to make the most of his time, but Karan was stubborn. He laughed at their concern, saying, "I'll achieve success someday, just not today." One day, Karan heard of a wise old hermit living in the mountains who was known for his profound wisdom. Many people sought his advice on how to find success, happiness, and purpose in life. Curious, Karan decided to meet him. After a long journey, Karan finally found the hermit's small hut atop a mountain. The hermit welcomed him warmly, and they began talking. Karan asked the hermit, "Can you teach me how to succeed in life? I want to be wealthy and respected." The hermit nodded and said, "I can teach you, but there's something you need to understand first." He handed Karan a small hourglass filled with sand and said, "Watch this hourglass closely. Each grain of sand that falls is like a moment in your life that you'll never get back." Karan watched the sand for a while but soon grew impatient. "What's the point of staring at an hourglass? I'm here to learn about success, not waste my time watching sand fall." The hermit smiled. "Time is more valuable than any wealth. The hourglass represents your life. Every grain of sand that falls represents a second you can never recover. Just as you can't turn the hourglass upside down to get back those seconds, you can't turn back time in your life. Time spent without purpose or growth is time wasted forever." Karan thought about the hermit's words, but he didn't take them to heart. After leaving the hermit's hut, he continued living carelessly, believing he still had all the time he needed. Years passed, and Karan realized he hadn't achieved anything of significance. The people he knew had all moved on to successful careers and families, while he remained stuck in the same place, wishing he had more time. Mr. Desai looked at Arjun intently and said, "You see, Arjun, time is like that hourglass. Each passing second slips away, whether we notice it or not. Once gone, it's impossible to retrieve. Karen realized this lesson too late, and he spent the rest of his life with regrets. Arjun felt a shiver run down his spine. The story struck a chord in him. For the first time, he truly thought about his own life and how he'd been wasting time. He remembered all the projects he had left unfinished, the dreams he had put on hold, and the countless hours he'd spent idling. He thought of his father, who had worked so hard his entire life, making the most of every moment to provide for his family. The next morning, Arjun woke up earlier than usual and joined his father in the shop. His father looked surprised but pleased. As the days went by, Arjun began managing his time better. He set goals for himself, worked diligently, and started learning skills that would help him one day start his own business. Over time, Arjun developed a routine, balancing his responsibilities at the shop with his passion for entrepreneurship. Years passed, and Arjun grew into a disciplined and hard-working young man. He opened his own store, which eventually became a thriving business. He never forgot the lesson Mr. Desai had taught him. Time had become his most valued asset. He respected every moment and made sure to use it wisely, whether it was in work or spending time with loved ones. One day, as he was closing his store, Arjun saw a young boy idling around, much like he used to do. The boy reminded him of his younger self. Arjun approached him and asked, "What do you want to do in life?" The boy shrugged and said, "I don't know yet. I guess I have plenty of time to figure it out." Arjun smiled, remembering Mr. Desai's story. He gently said to the boy, "Let me share a story with you. It's a story of a young man who thought he had all the time in the world." And so the cycle continued. Arjun had become a mentor, passing on the lesson he had learned, the value of time. The moral of the story. This story reminds us that time is one of the most precious resources we have. Unlike money or possessions, once time is gone, it can never be recovered. Every second, minute, and hour is an opportunity to learn, to grow, to love, to achieve, and to make a difference. Procrastination might feel comfortable in the moment, but it often leads to regret. Many people like Arjun in his youth believe they have all the time in the world. But life moves swiftly. As we grow older, the time we once took for granted becomes a precious treasure. In every day that passes, we are given the choice to make our time meaningful. Whether it's working towards a dream, helping others, or simply making time for ourselves and our loved ones, every moment matters. Remember that each day is a gift, and it's up to us to make the most of it. So if you ever find yourself thinking, "I'll do it tomorrow," remember Arjun's journey. Embrace the value of time, and you may find that the life you dream of is within reach, one moment, one day at a time.